We'll jump straight in. Thank you for being here.
Pleasure.
There's a lot of ways we could start this, but let's talk about, I guess, beauty and how you've slowly bringing that to India and through the shelter and how it all come about.
So I've been in the beauty industry nearly 2 decades this year, actually, and it's been one of the most, I guess, growth areas for me in my life. You know, grew up small country town, sucked at school, and then found myself in the beauty industry, which was very unfamiliar for me. It wasn't something that I ever encountered growing up, and I'm not the most girly of girls, so to be in the beauty industry felt like a real, almost a shock to the system, but turns out I'm really good at it.
That's good.
So once I discovered the science of skin and the biology of cells, it was like just fires going off in my head, which was fantastic. I feel like I'd found my thing that I was here for.
Did you do a course or anything for that?
Yeah, so I studied beauty therapy at a college out at Maitland.
Okay.
Yeah, and when I finished there, I realised that all of us graduate from the beauty industry knowing absolutely nothing about skin. And so most of my career has been in learning, growing, studying it so that I can be the best skin therapist that I can be to my clients. So, yeah, found that I wasn't as dumb as I thought I was growing up. And, yeah, this is where my skill set lies, and it's my passion and I love it. And now I just get to do that for a living with my business, which I adore. But the whole India thing kind of came about, I always say accidentally on purpose, because I think things that are destined for you happen for you. And so I've been traveling to India back and forth for many years, and on one of my visits there, I was in Leh in this little tea house waiting for a few friends to come because we were going to ride into Kashmir and do a motorbike ride. Yep. And I was there a couple of days early, and I was sitting there having breakfast at this little tiny table on this terrace, and these big burly American men come downstairs with their motorbike gear on, and there's nowhere else to sit, so we're all sitting together. And one of the guys says, oh yeah, we're off on a motorbike trip, and this is as a fundraiser for a shelter that I've co-founded in Delhi. And got chatting, and he said, yeah, his biggest passion, which is one that we quite share, is in giving people skills to be able to lift themselves out of any circumstance that they're in. And so this shelter provides vocational training, and they teach jewelry making, tailoring classes so people can learn sewing. And he said, oh, and we also do hairdressing and beauty therapy. And my ears just pricked up because I was like, oh, this is what I do. And my sister's a hairdresser, so it was just like a familiar world. And he's like, oh, we've got to get running off to our ride, but are you back here? You know, let's go out for dinner and have a chat. And so as you do, go down a strange alley to a cafe with a man you've just met 5 hours earlier in a foreign country. And, we just sat and chatted and talked a lot about how, you know, that adage of give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day, teach a man how to fish and he'll eat for a lifetime. And we connected over that, and just nothing ever came from that other than a connection. And we kept in touch over the years, and at times, you know, something would spark in me. I'm like, oh, I really need to do something about this. And 9 years later, it's taken 8 years later, I was like, right, this is it. This is the year I'm going to do something. I'm going to stop talking about it. And I just messaged him thinking one of my other businesses where I mentor beauty therapists around the world, perhaps we could fund for one of the girls in this shelter to go to a beauty college or at least do something, help one person, even though there are millions of people in the same situation and circumstance.
So you're already in touch with the shelter?
No, I was in touch with the founder, who's now quite hands-off, but he had some connections there. So when I was like, right, this is the time, I've got to go and do this, I reached out to him and he said, let me just check, because I know of a shelter in Delhi who has a basic program running. Let's see what you can do there. Naive, not realising these girls don't have an education, can't speak English, reading and writing is not something that they've ever been taught. So sending a girl to a beauty college was setting her up to fail. So back to the drawing board, I had a Zoom meeting with one of the coordinators at the shelter and just said, how can I help? What is going to be useful? Because yes, we can teach the steps of, say, a manicure or a beauty treatment, but is that actually going to help this girl to get a job and change her life and give her a career?
Mm-hmm.
And he said, well, no, because these girls need more than that. They need self-worth. They need just encouragement and love. And so it just kind of snowballed from there. And so 4 weeks later, I found myself on a plane flying back to India with the pure purpose of visiting this shelter and just seeing what could be done, how I could help. And these girls had beauty training. They had a teacher there, but no resources. Mm-hmm. So they're sitting on a concrete floor, painting each other's nails, doing hair with really just the bare bones basics. So my first trip there was like, well, the first thing I could do is go and buy some portable massage tables, some, manicure kits, makeup kits, things that they have a reusable resource to be able to teach with. Mm-hmm. So that was my first visit there. I got, of all my visits to India, I think I've been to India about 14 times. I got really, really sick because it was a Holi festival. Yep. And so there was a water fight on the rooftop with the girls at the shelter, and the rookie got water in her mouth. Oh. So it was a disaster. So the 2 days that I had there turned into like half a day of running around Delhi, trying to find the shops to buy all the equipment so I could at least leave knowing they had resources. And so over the next 12 months, the girls had the gear, and the teacher was using what she had. But this time going back, I went back in January about a month ago, and I've spent a little while now trying to just develop resources because they don't even have those sorts of things. So I am the least organised human on the planet. To structure anything is not my skill set. So to try and build a curriculum or bring some resources together is not my strength. and
is this for teaching them like a curriculum for like a beauty side of things? Yes,
from the most basic things of like salon hygiene, and how to clean all your equipment and tools to the step-by-step of how to perform a manicure. Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to do it in pictographs because it's written in English, it's useless. Yeah. And written in Hindi, I was trying to use Google Translate. I'm like, I don't know that this is exactly accurate.
You translate it over, then translate it back and it says something else?
Yep. And I've realised when I'm teaching, like I was trying to do one for facial massage, I'm talking about, massage the cheeks. That got translated into buttocks and thighs. Okay, yeah. So I thought, where's this going? Yeah. So just building resources that are all like a picture of step 1, step 2, step 3. Mm-hmm. And then also resources to help the teacher teach. So yeah, that's been a fun learning curve for me. Even though I run a business, I'm still the most disorganized, unstructured human on the planet. So that was a challenge. So yeah, my suitcase was full of 50 kilos worth of resources, teaching resources, and just consumables that are needed. Nail files, pedicure paddles to buff off dry skin off people's feet. And knowing you can get them over there in India, but I only had 4 days. So I didn't want my time to be spent rummaging around the markets looking for these things. I needed to get there to teach, support the teacher in teaching, and have an impact.
I want to talk about the shelter.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about physically what it looks like and what's happening there. But the girls in the shelter, can we hear their story or how they end up there?
So in this shelter, they have 40 girls. They range from 8 years old to 18, which is, when you hear why they're there, it's incredible to think of that age. But so this shelter rescues and looks after girls who've been victims of human trafficking, child abuse, family abuse, child labour, some of the worst things that you could possibly imagine could happen to another human. And they've either been rescued by police intervention, people have just found out tragic stories of other humans, they've been homeless on the street, and found themselves at this shelter. So this shelter is essentially about restoring these girls to their families where possible, helping and supporting them to rebuild their lives. So in the shelter they have legal representatives, they have counsellors, they have dormitory aunties because, and I'm going to get emotional talking about this, but for the first time in these girls' lives, they can put their head on a pillow and know that they're safe. They're not going to be touched in their sleep. They're not going to be abused in their sleep. And the night terrors, the traumas and things, you know, so to have a dormitory auntie there that is like a mother, an auntie, a sister. So in working with this shelter, I know it's more than just a roof over these girls' heads. It's rebuilding their sense of self-worth, you know, helping them to smile again.
How did you get in touch with the shelter?
So the man that I met on the motorbike back in 2016, he was still in contact with the people who were working there. So when I decided, okay, it's time to do something, he put me in contact with them. And it's run by a husband and wife and their son. And they have a great support team who come in, cook, clean, support the girls.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the stuff you're doing in Australia with all your clients, is it the same type of stuff you're doing with the girls in India?
To some degree. What I do here in Australia is more than the general basics of beauty therapy. So my business here is really skin focused, the science of skin and diagnosing and correcting a lot of skin conditions. What we're doing in India is bringing it right back to the basics of beauty therapy. So skills like manicures, pedicures, waxing, tinting, basic facials. So it's more the manual tasks of a beauty therapist that we're teaching, because we're working with girls who have learning challenges. Their parents, they've never been educated, so these girls haven't been to school. So reading and writing is not their strong point. They have been learning, which is fantastic, but I've got stories of some girls in the shelter who literally know how to write an X as their signature, so when then they have to do any court documents or paperwork, they've had the document explained to them and they sign it with an X.
Really?
Yeah. Like we saw in the movies as kids growing up, you know, X. Yeah. And then some have been learning to read and write. So the thing I love about the beauty industry is it is such a hands-on skill. You don't need to know how to read and write to be able to give an incredible manicure or, you know, a massage that makes somebody feel amazing. And I think that's what drew me to the beauty industry in the beginning as well, because I wasn't the smartest, you know, tool in the shed. So it's a tangible skill that can be taught, whether you can read or write, speak English or not. So it's more, I haven't found what a standard of training is in India, whether they have, like we have in Australia, certificate levels of training. So I'm trying to build a hybrid version of a Certificate 3 in Australia, which is one of the more basic levels within the beauty industry. However, a lot of the things within the Australian course do not translate into Indian culture.
Yeah.
Spray tanning, lash tints, all of those sorts of things. It's the opposite end of the scale. Everybody would like skin lightening and brightening. So I think the benefits of my experiences in India have taught me it's just not going to be a plug and play. And I've been in India many times to understand on a very basic level the cultural nuances where the beauty industry, whatever it is we're trying to create for this shelter, is relevant to Indian culture.
And what's the goal with, like, are we trying to get the girls to a place where then they can go out and work for a beauty salon or start their own, or?
Ideally, that would be the ultimate dream.
Yeah.
But think of when you go for a job interview, you have to be in a good mindset. You have to feel pretty confident in yourself to be able to sell yourself for the role, and to stand out above other candidates. These girls don't have that within themselves and that sense of self-worth. So yes, the dream for me would be for them to just be able to go out and work in beauty salons. However, I think we've got a few more hurdles in front of us before we get to that point, because yes, I can teach you how to do a kick-ass manicure, but
you're empowering them through that.
Yeah, but to be, like in my salon, to sit across from another woman and be the professional, have the authority as a leader, and to guide my client on what they need to do for their skin, for instance. That requires for me to feel really confident in myself to be able to do that. These girls don't have that. And to be in a room with a woman spending hundreds of dollars when you don't have that sense of self-worth, it's a challenge. So there are a lot of steps, I think, in the future of transforming beauty to get the girls to this point. So we're in the very infancy of it, of just developing the training course and learning the best way to teach these girls and to figure out where they are emotionally, skills-wise, at the end of the course, to then know, can they go straight into a job? So my goal is first to set up the training school and have that running well, have a really solid curriculum. Then the next step I would love to see is taking Australian beauty therapists or beauty therapists from other countries, bringing them to mentor the girls so that they're getting interaction with people outside of the shelter and to build their confidence. And then after that, the step is to look at building a non-profit beauty salon that's attached to the shelter. So these girls can learn the skills of being in an actual salon, learning how to, the basics of running a business, because maybe they want to go and start their own business, or we can set them up with some micro finance to go and start their own little beauty salon. But to do that, I think it would be beautiful to have a safe place for them to learn those skills where they're not going to get sacked for doing something wrong. We can then teach them, hey, action, consequence, here we go. So I've got no idea how to do that. Yeah. I've got no idea where to start with building a not-for-profit salon, but one of my biggest things in life is just take a leap, see where it lands. If it doesn't work, we figure out a way. Yeah. So that would be the goal, is to build a salon that girls can come and work in.
I love that.
Skill, be mentored by a boss who doesn't see them as the lowest rung of society, who understands their challenges and what they've had to overcome and can sort of mentor and nurture them. Yeah.
When you say the end goal would be great if the women can go and do that, but they don't have that confidence in themselves, you seem like you do. I can feel your energy, your presence. It's very, very, very strong. Where did you get that from? Because I'm guessing they don't teach that in beauty school.
The School of Hard Knocks. Yeah. I'm definitely not. No one's born with confidence. It's like you've just got to keep putting yourself out there and learning and growing. And I think I have the unique ability to not really care what anyone thinks. Did
you have to develop that, or did that just have you always said that?
I think part of my childhood kind of allowed me the opportunities to develop that. I wasn't a popular kid at school. I wasn't very good at things. So I think I had to get by a lot on my personality and the ability to read a room. And so I think that is what also makes this challenging, because it's not a skill that I know how to teach A plus B, then you'll be C. It's something I think comes from, rubbing off on people. And I can't be in India long enough to sort of have that impact. So I'm still not sure how to build self-confidence and self-worth as a module. But it's certainly not something that I've had my whole life. Yep. It's no. I think it's developed more. You know what? Turning 40 does something to you. I think you give less marks. Yeah. I also think my skills that I have in the beauty industry absolutely help, because I know that I'm very good at my job. Yeah. And so I might not be great at many things in life, but I'm good at that. And so that's certainly over the years given me a sense of self-worth and confidence.
Do you have clients that are like good at what they do, like really great beauticians, but they don't have the confidence, or they don't think they're good?
So, yeah, in one of my businesses, I mentor a lot of skin therapists, and a lot of us go and do more education courses thinking that's what's going to be what gives us confidence. But it's not. Learning about a cell, learning about how skin functions doesn't give you confidence. Learning how to explain skin science in a way that clients can understand is, I think, where you build your confidence, because you start to build a relationship and a connection with your clients, because you can dispel the myths of the beauty industry that make it feel so complex. You know, everyone thinks that their skin is this mystery. It's not. It's just a bunch of cells that misbehave, and a lot of people in the beauty industry know how to tame them. Yeah. So.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So when you're working with people in Australia, are they trying to, like, do they all have their own salons or beauticians that they're trying to really grow, or are they more working for people and they're coming to you for mindset help?
A bit of both. So I work with therapists all around the world, which I'm extremely blessed to do. Many of them are skin therapists who've started their own business, and they feel like there's some pieces to the puzzle missing. I think we're always told, just start your own business, it'll be successful. Or if you're really good at your job, you'll be successful. But if you've ever run your own business, it is a whole skill set that you're not taught in beauty therapy. So I guess my skill is in turning complex, sciencey beauty skin things into easy to understand, relatable content. And that's what I teach beauty therapists to do. So yes, I teach salon owners or solo operators who have run their own business, or beauty therapists who've worked in a salon and decided to go out on their own. But I'm absolutely not a business coach. I run 3 businesses. I'm flying by the seat of my pants. So I don't have any responsibility in teaching people how to run a business. But what I can teach you is how to show up in the treatment room as an exceptional beauty therapist or skin therapist, and use the knowledge that you have to help your clients and to get great results for your clients, which in turn creates client loyalty. It creates, more revenue in your business, because you are the person they've been searching for their whole lives. You need someone that's going to help you. If you're a client, you're looking for somebody who's going to help you make it make sense. So my zone of genius, you could say, is in helping other beauty therapists to be more relatable in the treatment room, to have some systems that make what we do make sense, to not fly by the seat of your pants, even though I'm the, the head coach and pilot of that, but to have some structure around what we do, because we're not really taught that in the beauty industry.
What made you want to do that, like teach?
It really came out of a little bit of frustration, because I would have people asking me all the time, how do you do that? Or what have you done here? Or can you show me how this works? You're so good at this. Why? Like, how can I be good at it as well? And I was spending a lot of time just in the DMs supporting, mentoring people. I thought, right, I actually don't have time to do this for everyone. And I was noticing there was the same patterns and the same threads, and people asking the same questions about the same things. So I could see there was a need in our industry for this. And I was literally sitting on a train on my way to a wedding one day, and I was like, well, how do I do this en masse? How do I help more and more people? And so it just kind of snowballed out of that, and me being like, I'll give this a crack. I'll have a go. It just has grown from there. So it's that I've been doing that for 3 years now. Yeah. Have
you always had that attitude where just I'll give it a go?
Yeah.
Yeah.
like, what's the worst that can happen?
Yeah.
My worst case scenario when I started my business was, well, I lose my house, I sell the equipment that I've invested in, and I go and pack shelves at the supermarket. If so be it, then at least I know I tried. And I think I have the same mentality with pretty much everything in my life. I'm like, well, let's see what happens here. What happens when we push that button? Yeah. And I have no risk in losing. If you don't ask, the answer's always going to be no. If you don't put one foot in front of the other, you're never going to get there. Yeah. So, yeah, I'll give anything a red hot crack.
Yeah. Do you go to courses yourself and always are you trying to consume more knowledge and grow? And
yeah, I am a lifetime student. I will always, if I don't know anything, I'm going to find out how it works. If I've got to pull it apart to put it back together and realize I've got some loose screws, then so be it. And I'm also, like, I've invested in coaching. I've, done as many courses that are available within my industry that I love to do. But I'm also just curious. I want to know how everything works.
Yeah. That's great. Me too. I'm very similar at all this, but film industry, obviously. But I just want to go back to India for a second. What made you first want to go there to start with? It
was a fluke. India had never been on my radar, and I hadn't really travelled all that much. But I was flying to a skin conference in Germany, and I had an Australian friend living in India at the time. And I was like, well, I'm literally flying over the top of your house. Why would I not drop in? And India felt less scary having a home base or somebody there, because you've been to India. Yeah. It's a smack in the face. Yeah. Like it's like nothing we've ever experienced in this country. So it was more the safety of having an Aussie on the ground, and I just fell hook, line and sinker in love with it. I came home and I actually felt homesick for a place that I've never been to in my life. It was a really strange feeling, and it was the people. It was, I think, the freedom of, when you travel and you kind of feel like the rules don't apply sometimes. It was a bit of that, like you could just get on a scooter and ride.
Do you feel safe there?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. And I've as a woman, I've travelled myself there multiple times. I've had some close calls. Yeah. My sister and I have moments where we're like, how did that happen? Her and I were in Old Delhi and we were visiting a friend there, and we're like, oh no, we'll just get a tuk-tuk back to our hotel, we'll be fine. And she's like, no, it's midnight, you can't go by yourselves, I'll get in the tuk-tuk with you. And we're just driving around, we're getting further and further out of Delhi, and it's getting darker and colder, and there's fog's rolling in. And the driver had no idea where we were going, and he kept trying to put us out on random
Was he doing it on
streets.
purpose?
I don't think so. I think he genuinely didn't know. I think he took the call going, yeah, I can take you there, and he's pulling over asking people for directions.
Love the confidence.
It'll happen to you all the time. There you go. Yes, no worries, madam. And we're in these dark streets, and we end up under this bridge, and it's like this typical movie scene of this 44-gallon drum with fire coming out of it, homeless people around it. And, really? And we're just like sitting ducks. I'm like, this... We knew we were in a bad way because my sister, we couldn't even make eye contact with each other because we knew if we looked at each other, we were about to burst into tears. And the driver's gotten out and walked away to go and ask for directions. And then our friend who was with us, an Indian man, he's taken my phone because it had the address of the hotel on it to go and ask someone else for directions. So my sister and I are just sitting there in this alley, and we're like, I was physically going to be physically unwell. I've never been that... I don't get scared of much. I'm not a fearful person, but I was like, whoa, we've ended up in this situation, excuse me, all by accident. And I was going to be sick, and I thought, if I pull this curtain aside and put my head out, they're going to know we're two girls on our own, tourists. And I was like, swallow. And it took about 10 minutes, and they finally came back, and we rode around for another half an hour and finally got to our hotel. And we were just rattled and shell-shocked. And we're like, we were those people that were going to end up on the news, and people would have gone, well, what were those two girls doing in India by themselves travelling? I mean, they shouldn't have got in that tuk-tuk at midnight. But it was just one of those things that...
Love your impression.
Because that's how I would have been. Well, they were asking for it. You know how the world is right now. Well, they shouldn't have been dressed like that. They shouldn't have, women. We cop it all. But we both just went, yeah, we would have been on the news. Our families wouldn't have known where we were because we hadn't told them that we were getting in this tuk-tuk at midnight. It was just, everything felt safe at the time until it wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so... we've had a few close calls like that where we're like, wow, that was the dumbest thing we could have done. But it wasn't at the time. Yeah. So, but now I've travelled myself many times, and as a woman travelling, you've probably never experienced this, but you're always just at that level of uncertainty. Yeah. You're always on a heightened level of looking around. But, we're always always on the lookout. But I don't live with fear. I don't travel with fear. It takes a lot to rattle me. I'm not a naturally worrisome person. So I have, I guess, a sense of, she'll be right. I can talk my way out of anything. So yeah, I do feel safe, but I think that is because I have relationships in India. I have people I can call. I don't know a lot of Hindi. I can speak some very basic phrases. And I have familiarity. But if I was a female traveling there by myself the first time, I'd be, at heightened and at the ready and a little bit concerned. But I'd be like, women are like that wherever we travel.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Are you always going back to Delhi?
Delhi's always the hub because I fly into Delhi.
Is that where the shelter is?
The shelter is in Delhi, yeah. So I've been spending a lot more time there than I have in my previous trips. I've always been out in more rural areas. 2 years ago, I rode a motorbike across the highest road in the world.
Really?
Novice motorbike rider. I turned 40, had a midlife crisis and thought, I'm going to learn to ride a motorbike. And 6 months later, with about 600 kilometres of actual riding experience, was riding the world's toughest road, riding through the Spiti Valley, riding into Kashmir.
Wow.
Fell off about 7 times, but it was one of the most profound experiences of my life in that I was well out of my comfort zone, But there's something about the rewiring of the neurons in your brain when you do something that's so uncomfortable. And
did you go by yourself?
With my partner.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we were in a group. So we went with a company called Nomadic Nights, who are absolute freaking legends if you're ever going to do some riding in India or Nepal. Mm-hmm. And they host the trips, they run the trips, but they let you just ride at your own pace. So we felt like we were kind of on ourselves until we got to a corner and there's someone pointing us in the right direction. Or at the end of the day, you pull up and you're all together and you don't have to figure out where you're going to stay. It's like, here, we're staying here, food, bed.
And how long is it?
2 weeks.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And it's along roads the whole time?
Yeah. But you've travelled in India, you know what the roads are like.
Yeah.
Poor excuse for roads.
Yeah.
I'd never done any off-road riding except for maybe a patch of gravel of road work on my way from here to Dungog, know. So, yeah, the most unbelievable experience. There were experienced riders 3 days in being medevaced out because they'd fallen off and broken bones.
Yeah, wow.
So here's little old me, the only girl in the group going, sure, I'll give this a go.
What are you riding, like scooters or?
We were riding the Royal Enfield Himalayas.
Okay,
Yeah.
nice.
So again, terrified because I'm gears, what? Clutch, brake. But again, have a go.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was really cool.
Have you just spent a long time in Nepal?
I went in 2018 and did Everest Base Camp.
Mm-hmm.
Again.
Incredible.
I
took Dad there for his 50th.
I took my mum there last year.
Did you?
She said 64. So I never thought I'd do it again.
Yeah.
And Mum saw the motorbike ride that I did in India. Mm-hmm. And she's like, oh, I'd love to be able to do something like that. I've been a passenger in my mum's car. There's no way I'm going to let her ride a motorbike. So I was like, maybe we do a hike. Mm-hmm. Stay on 2 feet. And I gave her a couple of options. I'm like, we could do Upper Mustang in Nepal or, the Rotang passes in India. We could do, a couple of things. I said, and there's always Everest. And she's like, well, if I'm going to do it, I'm doing the big one. And my mum's never walked further than the garden gate to collect the mail. So she did incredible. And it was...
How'd you go with the altitude?
We all did okay, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. I normally don't take altitude sickness tablets when I travel because I've been up and down a few different places, and I only took them because I know my mum wouldn't take them if I wasn't taking them. Mm-hmm. So yeah, she was taking them, and yeah, we did well.
Helped?
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, it was good.
My dad got we made it there, but got helicopter out.
Great.
Yeah.
It's the easiest way.
Just didn't have to walk down, but yeah, like full. He just wasn't himself.
Yeah.
Like
it's
it was
wild.
Yeah, I was in Bolivia and got altitude sickness, so I knew what it was going through. And I remember being in the hospital just not talking, and I felt like I was just dying. I'm just laying there, this is not good. And then watching Dad, I said, I know you don't have to don't talk. I know exactly how you feel, but just give me a thumbs up if you're right and you're not stressing. Gave me a thumbs up. Didn't talk. Like we walked back in. He's got like a frozen beard and stuff, and it was like full what you'd see in a movie. And I'm like sitting there, I'm like, what can we do? We just got to wait for a helicopter.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'd wait the night out and they took us back.
The first time I went with a girlfriend and we didn't have time. We were on a very tight schedule, so we'd already booked a helicopter to take us back to Lukla. And this time I'm like, I'm going to get the experience of going up and back, which was very cool. But the helicopter's the much nicer route.
So did you book it to come back?
The first time we did, yeah.
I didn't even know you could do that.
Yeah, it was an option on our package.
So you just walk up and just get the lift back?
Yeah.
That's great.
It's like the cheats version.
That's great.
But this time we walked back, which is amazing. And 2 weeks or 2 months before our trip, we'd just been planning this just because I went with the same guide as before. He's become my friend. I collect friends all around the world. And he emailed and he said, Robyn, do you mind if we just change your dates slightly and add 2 more people to the trek? Because he's since grown, he's started working the company himself, and so he doesn't do a lot of the treks. I'm like, mate, I want you to come with us. You did my first trek. Can you come? We'll come at the end of the season. He's like, yeah, but I have these other 2 people. Do you mind sharing your trip with them? I'm like, of course not. If they don't mind with us, because I'm bringing my mum and a couple of people, we might slow them down. He's like, no, that'll be cool. Turns out we were trekking. These other 2 people was the great-granddaughter of, the name evades me, bloody perimenopause, the name's on the tip of my tongue. Who was the guy who did the first attempt? George Mallory.
Really?
I was trekking to Everest Base Camp with George Mallory's great-granddaughter.
Wow.
And it just so happened to be the 100th anniversary of his attempt and his last sighting at 8 a.m. as he reached the summit.
Wow.
So she was going in to wake up at base camp the 100th anniversary of her grandfather's attempt.
That's really special.
Cool things happen. I've been very blessed.
Yeah.
So it was amazing to walk in with her, hear the stories of that she's heard of her great-grandfather, and to just have that added element of the experience of doing it with someone with such strong family history and ties to the mountain.
Do you think things like that just happen by chance?
Not at all.
No? What do you believe?
Oh, look, I don't know, but I just think the universe delivers, and you've just got to be open to some cool experiences. Because we've got to go, nah, we want to do, it's just me and my mum and my partner and friend, we want to do this by ourselves. We're like, nah, bring it on, the more the merrier.
Have you always had that thought, or did that come about the more you travelled? And
no, I've always, for most of my adult life, think things happen for us. Like the chance of me meeting the guy who set me up with this shelter, that's no accident. Like, what are the chances? Because I'd even missed my flight that morning. So I wasn't even on the flight that I was meant to be on, to be at that tea house at that time doing those things. And just so happened he goes beauty therapy and I'm a beauty therapist. I don't think anything happens by chance. I think everything.
Do you look out for them moments more, or do you just wait for them to come?
No, because they'll happen when they're meant to happen. I don't think you can orchestrate these things.
You just trust in it?
Yeah.
You don't try to create them?
No. Because if you try and create them, there's no authenticity to it. There's an ego or a motive behind why you're trying to create it. Whereas I think if you just let what's meant to happen, good or bad, there's a reason.
How do you translate that stuff to business?
I just think, I don't know, I just let it happen. And it's not that I have a rigid plan for my business, because let's be honest, none of us know what we're doing. Yeah. We can all have the best of intentions, and it never works that way. So there's always an element of trust, I think, that it's going to work out. I am the eternal optimist to my own fault, really. I always think, she'll be right. It'll work out. And it always does. Yeah. It might not be to the big grand plan that your ego envisioned it could and would be, but it could be something better. Yeah. You just never know.
Yeah. I'm big on that. I just throw myself in it because I know it'll work out or I'll figure it out. And I guess then it'll work out.
Yeah, that's right. Whatever happens is probably what was meant to happen. Or yeah. And it doesn't mean that I'm aloof or okay, well, we'll see what happens. There is always still a bit of planning and a bit of
evaluation.
Yeah. I'm not coming out with a bit of I don't know. I think you can have goals and aims and a loose plan, but I think if your plan is too tight, you shut yourself off to any cool stuff that could have happened if you just let go a little bit.
Yeah. Do you feel this a lot when you're in India in the shelter around the women? And you're like, I've been brought here, you've been connected,
Yeah.
I'm here, we're crossing paths for a bigger purpose?
Yeah, I don't have a solid plan for this.
Mm-hmm.
I just know if I just keep going and showing up, what is meant to happen is going to happen. Because, again, I'm not there to go in and railroad, my white horse to fix this.
Yeah.
I just know that I have some skills, and if I offer them, then they'll be used the way they need to be used. I have intentions of, yes, taking beauty therapists over to mentor, and yes, it'd be great to open up a shelter. That may never happen because there may be other things that come up or that happen within the shelter, or the needs change. And so therefore then I will adapt and flip and do what it takes based on what the needs of this are. Because if you put a business perspective on this, you think, yes, you can have a plan for how it's going to happen. And I have my plan based on my experience of running a business in Australia. It doesn't work like that in India. You've travelled there. Yeah. It's organised chaos. Things happen how they're going to happen in a really beautiful Indian way. So if I try and impose my structure on this, I'm going to get hella frustrated because I'm going to think, well, you guys aren't doing this right. This is how I want it to happen. But that's not the way it's meant to. It's meant to happen. I'm just there to prop up and support the people that are doing the work. And if the teacher needs more resources, I can do that. If the teacher needs a little bit more confidence in teaching or nurturing or mentoring the girls, I can do that with her. I can teach her how to do that because that's what I'm doing for other beauty therapists in what I'm doing and how I run my business with the team that works for me. So I'm just there to offer my skills.
But like, what drives you with that? Like, if you, let's say you're here, work's crazy, your schedule's crazy, and you're still going to go fit in a trip to India. Something's got to be driving that. I
don't know what though, because honestly, my life is crazy. But there is a sense of this is what I was put on this earth to do. This is the legacy of what I'm leaving the beauty industry. I mean, I'm here for a long time, don't get me wrong. I'm not going anywhere. You'll literally have to wheel me out of the treatment room because me with my client in the treatment room, it's again what I was put on this earth to do, to help them, support them, help them feel more confident and be a little bit of respite for that so they can go out into their life and be amazing. And so I know that because of that skill, that's what's put me on this path. So I will move heaven and earth to make sure I'm back there and doing what these girls need, because that's part of, I guess, it's a bit woo-woo, but I guess part of my soul's work, what I'm here to do.
That's great. When are you heading back?
Potentially October, and if not October, it'll be in the start of the new year. It all comes down to how I can be of service, really. If I'm just going back just to
filling time,
hug girls and be like, oh great. When I'm there, I have such a purpose. Like, you can't distract me. The shelter coordinator was saying, oh, whilst you're here, would you like to do some shopping, go to the Taj Mahal? And I'm like, that's not what I'm here for. I am here. You're working morning and night for these girls. If I'm here for 4 days, you get every little piece of me. I will leave myself on the floor. Nothing is off limits, out of bounds. I will do what it takes in those 4 days. So I'm really focused when I'm there and looking at, yes, what I can do in those 4 days, but how is this going to contribute to the bigger picture? And what else can I be setting in motion while I'm there? So I'm also mindful that if I'm going to bring other people from the industry over to come and support this, that it needs to be worth their time as well.
Yeah.
So if we're just coming in and doing, let's just paint nails today, or it's going to be feel good. It's not only transforming the lives of these girls, but it's transforming the lives of the therapists that come over and experience this and see what their skills can do beyond what they ever thought, just being a beauty therapist in the treatment room, and the impact that they can have there. So I want to make sure that it is valuable for everybody involved, and not just we spent a day with the girls, but no, you're actually using your skills. So I'm still figuring out how to make that worthwhile for everybody involved. But also a lot of the beauty therapists that come, potentially they've never left the country. They've never travelled. So I want them to have an experience to fall in love with India as well, and see India through my eyes. So
is there an evaluation process for like who you're taking over?
There will be, because again, not that I want to use these people that come, but you have to have something you can bring.
Yeah.
Because this isn't just a chance for you to kind of have a feel-good holiday. This is where you come and you use your skills to gift to another young woman that is going to change her life. So I'll be very particular. This isn't just a PR visit for companies and brands and things like that. This is you will be elbows deep in this, and it is going to change your heart, and it's probably going to break your heart to hear the stories of these girls. And I'm quite hardened in that I have travelled, I've seen it, I understand what goes on, I've heard the stories, I've worked, intimately with these girls. It still brings me to my knees, but me being on my knees doesn't help these girls.
Yeah.
So I can't get emotionally caught up in the stories, because they don't need my pity. They don't need my, oh, poor you, I can't believe this has happened to you. They need me to be a phenomenal mentor, to show them that with this skill you can change your life, because it changed my life being in the beauty industry. It gets me all misty-eyed and a bit emotional, because of what I can see this can be and what I know could happen for these girls.
With everything that's going on, like they're being human trafficked and stuff, is it all just in India? Are they getting girls from other countries nearby?
The girls in this particular shelter are Indian or living in India. So there's a whole mix of cultures. There might be some Nepalese girls, there might be some Tibetan girls, but yeah, they're all essentially Indian girls. And that's enough to deal with, so to speak. Like, it happens everywhere.
Yeah.
Every country has an underbelly of darkness. In Australia it might be homeless, it might be, relationship abuse, alcohol abuse. Here, this country is, rife with those sorts of things. I don't know all the stats, but I think it's something like 11 million children are trafficked or in India. It's 1.6 billion people in the country.
Yeah.
I don't get caught up in the stats and the figures of who's who. I'm there to help where I can help. And if this is the only way I can do it, it's easy to get overwhelmed and just think, how can this happen? How is this still happening? But if I'm out there looking at that big picture, I'm not focused on the one that's in front of me.
Yep.
And what I can do for the 40 girls out of 11 million. So I have to kind of put my blinkers on and just get focused and help the ones I can help, create change for the ones I can create change for. And if I, on my dying day, I have done all of this for just one, I'm dying happy.
It's worth it.
Yeah.
What's the shelter look like?
You've travelled in India.
That's why I ask.
You know what the infrastructure is like.
Yeah.
So the girls are living in like a multi-story concrete building. And they've done beautiful things with it. The training room that we're in is a really multi-purpose room. And if you see some of my pictures on Instagram, there's a mural on the wall, there's some carpets on the floor, but the standards or the expectations is just very different from a Western lifestyle. But yeah, you've got the bottom floor, which is the office space, and a kind of a communal room that's also used for when they have like a medical pop-up for the community. And then upstairs is like the kitchen, some recreation rooms, dormitories upon dormitories. Yeah, and it's, you know, multiple girls in a room.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the shelter, the lady who's running it, which I would have seen on the NBN story, how are they saving these women or finding them? Like, are they actually going into places and taking them out, or what does that look like?
In the early days, I think this shelter's been around for, I think it's 15 or 19 years, long time. So in the early days, it was very much like a grassroots go in, rescue girls from brothels or kids on the street.
That seems like that actual scenario seems so intense.
When I first met the guy in the tea house on the motorbike ride, he told me he was going in and doing those things, and he invited me to come along.
Oh, he was going in?
Yeah, in the early days, they were the ones going in and getting the girls or rescuing the girls. And he said, you know, you come along to like a raid. And at the time I was like, I don't think I have the fortitude for that. Like, we know what happens. We know what goes on, but I'm not sure if I could. I don't know what that would do for me as a human, and whether that would break me and then be in a place where you're kind of a bit paralysed and can't do anything about it. But nowadays, things have changed, laws have changed, and this is all mostly done through police intervention. It might be, you know, girls that have run away or been child brides and they've been somehow found, or there might be like a legal case and so the girls have been taken and the court has appointed them to this shelter. There's lots of different avenues of how the girls come in, but mostly these days it is around that court appointment or a police rescue of sorts.
Okay. A bit more like mapped out and planned.
Yeah. I think there's a bit more tracing and tracking of who's going where and what's happening.
Yeah. Yeah. And probably there's so many questions that I could keep asking on that. But I guess if they know who's doing it, then that would open up not just taking the woman out and saving her, but then let's make sure this doesn't happen again. So if these people are doing it, stop them from doing.
I imagine that there would be things in place, or you know, if you know there's a brothel that's using trafficked underage girls, women who've been trafficked. I don't know what happens to those brothels, whether they're shut down, but there's start-up next door. Yeah. Like there's naughty people know how to do naughty things, you know, like if there's a will, there's a way. And if there is a customer for this service, there is always going to be a business that's going to service that. And how do you change something that's just systemic? How do you change something that easily? So there's also, every country has corruption. So I think the problem is so much bigger than any one person can change.
Well, the work you're doing is incredible.
I hope that it is for someone. Yeah, I hope that it is for even just one girl, that it makes a difference, or that it gives, even if she doesn't end up in the beauty industry, that her time at that shelter, having a teacher, loving upon, giving skills, someone that sees the worth within, that in itself is life-changing.
Definitely.
So whether or not we build a not-for-profit salon, whether or not these girls get jobs, yes, that would be from a business perspective or a charity perspective what the pathway might be. But if that never happens, it doesn't matter, because I've done what I've been called to do. I've shown up the way that I best know how, and however that turns out is however that turns out. But even if the 4 days that I'm there once or twice a year, these girls feel valued and feel special, even just that little tiny glimmer of hope is enough.
That's really inspiring.
I wouldn't say thank you, because I don't think it's anything to do with me. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to say thank you. If someone's listening and want to look at more of the stuff you're doing, do you want to just share?
Yeah, absolutely. So the the charitable foundation, which I've set up, which is a whole new learning curve for me as well, figuring out how the heck do you run a charity or set that up. But it is called Transforming Beauty because we're using the beauty industry to transform the lives of the girls that we're working with. At this stage, we have an Instagram page, transforming_beauty_. We have a charitable foundation that is set up. We're currently working on our tax-deductible donation status. Again, a learning curve. You can set up a registered charity, but it doesn't necessarily give you
the DGR receipts.
Exactly. Yeah. So we're still in the process of that, but still taking donations. And I've never given anything with the expectation of a kickback in return.
Yeah.
And so for me, whether this was a tax deduction or not, it doesn't matter. So if you feel compelled to give, we would greatly accept. If you would like to know more about me, on Instagram, I am Expert Skin Therapist, and that's where you'll be able to find all of the things that I do.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to share, because I've not actually sat and talked about this in any long form. It's been snippets and buzzwords, and I've never articulated a lot of what it is and what it means. So I really appreciate the opportunity for that. So thank you.
Thank you.